Welcome to the Soul Touched by Dogs podcast, the show for dog lovers who see dogs not as toys or tools, but wise souls worth our respect and care. I'm Anke Herman, and I'm your host. I talk to awesome humans, people who do great work for dogs and their people. So come and join us for today's conversation. Hello and welcome, Toni. I'm delighted to have you here.
Hi, Anka. Thanks for having me.
Well, I always ask, and I have to ask you as well, where in this lovely world are you based and what's your business with dogs?
Sure. So I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the United States. And my life with dogs is very long. Um, yeah, it's very long. And I think we both can agree that our dogs kind of guide us throughout life, I feel like.
Sure.
But currently I have a podcast called Toni Unleashed, and it is about natural remedies to common ailments in pets, in dogs and cats. So I'm very holistically minded, and I feed my dogs raw food, and I really just try to spread that message as much as I can. So that's basically what I'm doing right now.
I love that. I love that because I think for some weird reason, there still needs to be quite a bit of education around that
Yeah,
topic,
they're
right?
really,
So I know when I started reading the labels was when my first dog just stumbled into my life and the kibble that the vet told me I needed, like I was not to feed him anything else other than the expensive kibble they sold.
yeah,
And he had skin issues and, he kind of wasn't a good eater and like something didn't add up. So that was what made me look, and I
yeah.
came across this ebook where somebody said, well, actually, tip number one, read the labels and you'll never feed that crap again. So that's kind of what made me look into the direction of, okay, kibble isn't the answer. What was it for you?
So, literally 25 years ago, I was walking into a grooming shop, and as I walked into the grooming shop, I witnessed the groomer handing her dogs raw chicken legs. And I am not a very shy person. And I said, what are you doing? You cannot give your dogs raw chicken, let alone chicken bones. Those are the legs. You're going to kill your dogs. And she said, no, I'm not. She said, I feed raw food. This is how this is biologically appropriate to them. This is how they would naturally eat in the wild. Kibble is man-made and highly processed. And literally a light bulb went on in my head, and we talked for a while, and then she recommended a couple of books. And this was 25 years ago, so I went straight to the bookstore and I bought the books and read the books. And then my dog at the time, her name was Meg, she was eating Purina One, and that's what the shelter was feeding when I adopted her. So I just kept on feeding her Purina One. And as soon as I read those books, one of which is Dr. Ian Billinghurst's Give Your Dog a Bone, it's a fantastic book that I highly recommend. But I literally cold turkeyed her from Purina One to raw food the next day, and we never looked back. And the crazy thing is, Anka, is she had zero digestive upset from going cold turkey from kibble to raw. So, and then she didn't really have any issues, like health issues, fortunately. She was a pretty healthy dog, but she still changed. Like her coat became softer and thicker and fuller. Her eyes were brighter. Her teeth were cleaner. Her breath was fresher. She poops less. She drinks less water. I mean, there were just so many changes in her that it was just it just creates a different animal. Um, so that was Meg. And the weird thing was too, where I was living at the time with Meg, there was a small little pet food store really close to my house. So when I would walk Meg, we'd stop in, but they didn't carry raw food. They carried natural foods like grain-free kibbles and better selections. So, but I'd stop in and they'd give her a treat and I'd buy some treats and things and you know how that goes and you just get to know each other. It becomes like like a family almost. So, the owners one day said to me, we're thinking about moving to Florida and we want to sell the business. Yeah. So,
Oh,
yeah. So, so prior to, and I was pet sitting at the time. So I'd had my own pet sitting business for about 8 years and I was getting to the end of that. I was really burning myself out. And prior to pet sitting, I have an extensive retail management background. Yeah.
match made in heaven.
Right. So, so that's kind of, so I bought the store, and that was one location that was 1,000 square feet. I moved it 6 months after I bought it. I doubled my square footage, which allowed me to bring my first freezer in. And then, so that was in 2008. And then 2011, I opened a second location because I had people coming from all like very far distances because I mean, I had
Nobody
a
had
big
it.
selection of raw food. So then I opened a third location in 2019 and then a fourth location in 2022. So I really built and grew the raw food market. And, uh, you know, that really has helped a lot of pets in the area, helped a lot of education in the area. And then in like 2021, I'm like, I feel like this message needs to go further than just Pittsburgh. And that's why that's how the podcast came to be.
Wow, wow, I love that. I love that. I mean, it makes so much sense to me, and it's interesting that you mentioned the cold turkey. I actually had somebody on the show not long ago, and she was basically saying, well, yeah, why wouldn't you go cold? Like, if like the moment, it's almost like if you've ate nothing but hamburgers all your life, and all of a sudden
Right,
you realize that that's actually not very good for you. You're going to start eating better food, but you're not going to kind of gently ease in for a month, like,
right.
so it's like, yeah, no, you're going to eat better food and your body's going to be grateful. It's
Yep.
really, because I think it's one of those um, misconceptions, or this idea that people always have. It's like, oh, if they're used to kibble, then you kind of have to kind of transition slowly. Would that be true in any case? Would there be situations when, no, not really?
You
Mm.
do have to transition from kibble to kibble. But the crazy thing is,
Oh,
when you are a raw feeder, you do not have to transition with raw food. So my dogs eat different brands, different proteins from morning to night even, and they have no issues whatsoever.
mm.
So I feel like that speaks volumes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So what do you think? Like, what do you think? Why is sort of kibble still hanging in there? I get the sense, and I don't know. Like, it's my personal perception that more people become aware of, hey, this isn't the best thing to feed, But it's still the common thing. Like, dog food is on a shelf in a supermarket kind of thing, and if you're
Yeah.
lucky, it's a more expensive kibble at the vets. But so this idea of there's still this like, is this a good idea? That's even still a question, right? So what's your theory on that?
So my theory on that's a great question. My theory on that is, as much as I want kibble to completely go away, I think it's an unrealistic idea because of mostly cost and marketing. We
Mm.
and the veterinary industry. The veterinary industry really pushes the kibble. And even not just even their prescription based kibble. They really push it because, their phrase is, well, it's been scientifically tested. We've got the data to back it. Well, the data is from the companies that make it or the pharmaceutical companies that own the kibble companies that own the vets that own. So it's just this convoluted message, right?
Yeah.
So, and then from a cost perspective, I mean, it is more expensive to feed raw food.
True, but I must say I've always had a theory. Like I mean, every time somebody says you pay about how much for to feed your dogs, and I'm like, look, it's been literally almost like to the week 20 years since my first dog came into my life, and I can honestly say what I spent more on food, I save in vet costs.
Yes, I
Because
100%.
I literally, like, when I look at the kind of health issues that my dogs have, it's like nothing,
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
kind of health issues that dogs have who I know are basically get kibble and stuff. So I don't really think that kibble is more cost effective if you really take everything into account. In the moment, it's cheaper. And maybe convenience, but then you were saying freezer. So, like, because maybe not everybody wants to like chop the head off a chicken every day, like
yeah.
it's,
And
but the
not everybody
convenience,
goes to a butcher,
yeah,
because going to a butcher, that is very cost effective, where
yeah,
you go straight to the source and get some necks and body parts and,
yeah,
that sort of thing. Then it definitely can be effective.
yeah.
And yes, you're 1,000% right. You spend less money at the vet.
So how do you kind of solve the convenience or, address the convenience concern? I mean, is there a way, when you're saying like in the freezer, if you kind of, I mean, I have a freezer, it's for the dogs, it's for the dog
Yes.
food, right?
Yes.
Mm,
I don't think it's not more complicated to feed raw food, especially if you can buy a brand that is thaw and serve. Like they make them in 8-ounce patties. They make them in 2-ounce little meatballs. They make them in little bites. They make it's easy. So if
mm,
you do not want to go to a butcher and, do the body part route or make your own grind, you can go to most likely a locally owned pet food store and get formulas that are already ready to go.
yeah. I mean, that's the
So,
thing. It's almost like I can't even see a reason why somebody would still, you know, yeah, I don't know. I can't see any benefit because the stuff's like, I mean, like my dogs even didn't even like, I remember Leo. I mean, the others don't like the big ones now. She doesn't, I don't think she even like the last one. She's like
uh-huh.
almost 3. I don't think she's ever tried it. Like, I don't think she even
Really,
knows what it is, you
that's
know.
awesome.
But, like Leo, I know was a picky eater. He wasn't a good eater, and I'd constantly have to put that bowl in front of his face to try and encourage him to eat. The
Yeah,
moment he ate real food, he gobbled it up, and so I'd had to kind of, yeah. But also they don't get overweight,
they don't get
because
overweight
they do actually eat like, well, I don't know, a lot or not a lot, whatever, but they don't get overweight even when they age.
because you don't have to have that starch that is
Mm,
the binder in kibble. So that starch turns to sugar in the body, and that's what makes them get fat. So, yeah, my dogs have always been lean and mean. And usually people say to me, "Oh, isn't your dog a little on the thin side?" And I'm like, "Well, actually not." You know, I
yeah,
think we have a distorted view of how big our dogs should be.
yeah,
Um, and they even tell us you shouldn't see their ribs, you should only feel their ribs. Well, I think if you can see the ribs a little bit, it's
mm,
okay. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like my dog, I have a Great Dane. I have 2 dogs right now. I have a Great Dane, Layla, and you can see her muscles. She is gorgeous. And you can
that's
see her ribs
awesome.
too, but she
Yeah.
is so healthy.
But I think it also depends on the breed. Like you can have a greyhound, and I think you should probably see some ribs because if not, the poor thing's probably too fat. Whereas like a chunky Labrador, like whatever, or if they have longer coat and or more
Yes.
fluffy, it's probably harder to see. You would want to starve them to the point that you can see the ribs, right? But I
Yes.
think there's also common sense comes in play, right? So you wouldn't want to kind of just like,
Yeah.
yeah, go by that visual, you know yeah, yeah. So
Unfortunately, I think marketing has pushed common sense out of a lot of people's heads.
yeah, I mean, you were mentioning sort of brands. Are there some specific ones that you would, other than your own? Like, is there if somebody wants to start, and like, okay, I can't go to Tony's shops. Like, where should I start? Like, what's a good place to start if somebody goes, well, let me try this.
Yeah, so depending on what's available and where all your listeners are, Solutions Pet Food is one of my favorites. They're real. They don't even freeze in plastic. That's how, you know, extreme they are as far as it being pure. So they only they wrap it in butcher paper and then pack it in cardboard boxes because they don't want the dioxins from the plastic to transfer into the raw food,
Wow.
right? So, Solutions Pet Food is one of my favorite. Raw Dynamic is a great brand. Raw Dynamic is, I feel like, has grown greatly because theirs is in little cubes. So I think from a from a visual perspective, like a person can still see themselves scooping that, just like we're so used to scooping kibble. Yeah, I think
Like
it's a
it's like vegan hamburgers, right? It's
I
almost
think
like
it's a
make it
thing. You
look
still
like.
have to have or feel like you're,
That's funny.
making that. Yeah, I don't know. So, Rod, there are quite a few good brands. What's another good one? OC Raw, Instinct is a good brand, which is more available at like PetSmart or Petco. Selling Chewies is now available at PetSmart and Petco. And that's all, a good selection of what's available in the
Hmm.
US.
I mean, it does seem to me like there's more and more choice available, right? You know, when I first started to get Leo off cable, like literally the Moroccan butcher down the road was literally the only place you could get stuff. You know, so there was nothing. You would look and there would be like cans, and it's like, oh, you know, this is the luxury brand. It had like 30% of meat byproducts rather than four, you know, so that kind of stuff. And it's just like, yeah, no, actually, there is something, it just reminds me, there was a company, a UK company, I think it was, they advertised quite heavily for a while. I haven't seen it in a while. And they were selling something like they would basically dry freeze food,
Oh, free, yes.
you know, and they
So
basically said, well, this way it keeps the nutrients and yada yada. And so there was they had some sort of supplements that kind of like herbal stuff that you could put in front of. I tried that once. Didn't really, I don't know, wasn't nobody got upset stomach or anything, but I also didn't feel like there was nothing where I could see a massive difference. But there was also no problem to fix, so fair enough, you know. But they basically, their whole philosophy was to say that dry freezing process
yes,
somehow keeps the nutrients, and you just basically, because that really solved the convenience, that addressed the convenience bit, because it was basically like a like dried parsley or something, you know, that
yep,
kind of stuff, and you just put water on it, and then
yep.
so what's your take on that?
So freeze dried is very high quality. It's second best to raw food. So they
Mm,
literally, those companies are taking their exact raw food formula and putting it through a freeze drying process and making it shelf stable. No different than, things you can go camping with or go to, the
mm,
military goes to war with as far as something to eat. It's still very high quality. It is one of the fastest growing categories. And the interesting thing is, it is the most expensive category.
mm.
Isn't that
Yeah,
wild?
but it is interesting, right? Because it feels to me, it's like,
Yep.
well, you know, I'm not on trips all day every day, you know. So if I can like feed my normal, more inconvenient, messy, raw, you know, like, and then if I do go somewhere where I know I might not have a kitchen or I can't mess
Yes,
around with the chicken legs, basically, you know, then that might be an alternative that will kind of tie me over when I'm not in my own
totally.
space. Mm,
Totally. You can even get freeze-dried goat's milk if you do goat's milk. Shepherd Boy Farms is the brand for freeze-dried goat's milk. But I always have a bag of freeze-dried in my cupboard in case I forget to thaw a meal, or like you said, it's perfect for traveling.
yeah.
But I mean, people can do whatever they want, but I don't recommend using it as your day in and day out meal because
Mm,
it is so expensive. If you look at
mm.
the feeding calculations, it's so expensive. It's cheaper to feed raw.
Yeah, I mean I think you know, that's the thing. It's like you pay for the convenience, you know,
People do.
and so yeah, if you Well, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
right?
So where can people find out more? Where can people listen to the podcast? Obviously, we're going to pop the links in the show notes, of course. But
Yes. So my website is toniunleashed.com, and it's Toni with an I. My Instagram is toni.unleashed, and I'm on Facebook and TikTok, and that's just Toni Unleashed. So
awesome. Such a cool name.
thanks. Thanks. I was unleashed from retail because I sold 3 out of my 4 stores. So that's where the unleashed kind of,
Oh, that's
you know,
interesting. See, I'm thinking of leash and dog leash kind of thing, right?
yeah, it's
So
a
it's like
play
a
on
play on
words there.
words.
Yes.
Very cool. Very cool. Well,
So
thank you so much. Thank you. I think this is it's a message that I sort of really kind of want to do anything I can to help get out, because I've seen the big difference in Leo. I've seen how the other dogs thrive, and so it's definitely worth it. So thank you so much for coming and sharing.
you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so other dog lovers can find the show. If you haven't already, head over to soultouchedbydogs.com and sign up for weekly doggy cuteness, tips, recommendations, and personal stories to warm your dog-loving heart. And if you know a awesome human you think I should interview, I'd love an introduction. Email me at Anke, that's ANKE, @soultouchedbydogs.com.